Joined now by Patrick Johnston of the Province and Post Media. It's been a couple of weeks, Blake. We missed him last week. We took a couple days off with the Canucks bye. Hi, I'm Matt. He's Blake. Good to see you again.
Pleased to meet you.
I was just out there seeing if I was worth a first-round pick. I was,
Everybody's worth a first-round.
Yeah.
Nick Dow goes for a first-round pick. Patrick, everybody's worth a first-round pick at that point. Did you get away at all? Did you?
No, come on, no. But the ladies are away. They're in Mexico. They're having a good time.
Oh my goodness! Your wife and her friends they take more vacations per capita than I think any friend group I know.
They've earned it.
And you're always left behind.
I
gotta say, Candace has got a good thing going on here.
No, let me put it this way. There was a chance that came up to have done something last weekend. Months and months and months ago. A friend of mine, it's his 40th birthday. He lives in England. He threw sort of the global invitation out. The original plan was to go to Rome to watch England versus Italy, Six Nations rugby.
Oh, wow.
And I actually it was far enough ahead that I actually did a little research, and I actually could have found, I would have had to it would have been I think 2-stop flight, but you fly through the US kind of deal. And I found a pretty decent price. And then he and the boys, in fact, had booked a bunch of hotel rooms just to make sure that it was covered off because, England away, any England away travel, any sport in Europe, you've got to be ahead of the curve, right? Anyway, he was on top of it. What he hadn't looked into was the price of flights from London to Rome for that particular weekend for all the obvious reasons, because there's going to be all these English rugby fans wanting to go. And so it didn't happen. And so now they're doing something this week in like Seville. And I was like, guys, I got to work. I can ignore the NHL All-Star game, but I can't ignore the Canucks in Detroit. So there you go. I was this close. So I'm trying. I'm trying to make something happen, Matthew.
To partying with the English yobs in Rome. And instead you wrote about Marty Walsh. And
there you go.
He can't come to our Greta event on the 22nd of February because he has his Strata AGM.
Yeah.
Where he may get promoted to Strata president from vice president after a long and arduous campaign through Iowa and New Hampshire.
I've never heard more people involved in the Strata than I have in the last few years.
Honestly, why would you ever join a Strata? Why? It is creating problems in your life that you can just completely ignore so long as
you really care about the furniture in the foyer that much?
It's not. No, boys, this is big time stuff. We got to replace the stairs on the outside of the building, parkade repairs. Come on.
Okay.
Oh
all right.
It is unbusy people who need to feel important in life.
Oh, come on, Matthew. If you knew how important this Strata was.
I told my parents, you stay far away from the Strata as possible. If somebody talks to you in the elevator about anything Strata, you polite, you nod, you smile, you walk out. You don't give it another second's thought.
Yeah.
Fake governments.
Retired communities that have Stratas. My buddy's mom is involved, and they meet every week. If that was what we were doing, I would not be involved.
Honestly, if 13-year-olds want to get together for a mock UN General Assembly, have at it. That is part of the education process. But when grown-ups decide, we're going to create our own little, government, quasi-judicial body over here. No, stay far away.
So to bring this back to hockey,
4 minutes in. Sorry.
Are the Canucks merely going to change the furniture in the foyer, i.e. a seventh defenseman, or are they going to completely revamp the exterior lighting and the parkade?
Yeah, staircase
for a fourth defenseman right side.
That's pretty good.
Would Phil Kessel be like changing the lock on the bike cage downstairs?
Something like that. Yes, I think so. Yeah.
It's combo lock now. Here's the code. Don't share it with anyone, or we're gonna drag you in front of the Strata.
I think you're more onto something there, Blake. I mean, I think they would love to add another big piece, but I'm not sure they do it in the market. If there really is a market for a first round pick for Nick Dowd, I'm not sure you're really chasing. You want to make moves, but some of them are going to be nuts. And that may just price you out, especially.
But honestly, today we're talking about a first round pick for Nick Dowd. Yesterday we're like, maybe it's a buyer's market at the end of it. So which is it?
Honestly,
I think it is.
Oh, what, a buyers?
I think if you make some of these, I think if you wait another month here, I think you have more teams looking to sell. I think you're going to get some value at the deadline this year.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think there's enough teams that I kind of already know they're not in it, even though, you look at like the Western Conference wildcard race and there's like 4 or 5 teams in the mix there, right? There's enough teams that kind of know they're out, and there's enough look at Calgary, like Calgary already knows they're selling. It's not just Tanev, it's Hanifin. Like there's more guys move there. I do think the Canucks are pretty happy with their defense core. Adding Lindholm obviously is a huge thing for them. And we've already seen how it, I think, changes the dimensions of their lines. That said, as I've said more than once, Jim Rutherford didn't stop at Doug Weight in 2006. He went and got Mark Recchi at the deadline as well. Like, he built a whole new second line. So, in their heart of hearts, would they like to get a Frank Vatrano? Where does Frank Vatrano sit on this roster, right? Like, I think that's the kind of guy that they could still be interested in. There certainly is some cap room. Like, they have almost $2 million really in sort of space with how the LTIR is set up and juggling things around. If you can convince a team to do retention, if you could do a trade through a third party to make things really cheap, I think that there are things they could do here, right? They are not as hamstrung as they might have been in the past, even if it is challenging. So yeah, I don't think they're shy about trying to find someone else to do. I'm just not sure if they'll be able to do it. That's the only question.
Hey, it's interesting you say Vatrano, because boy, we got a lot of we did some Vatrano talk last week and got a lot of response on that. Answer me this: do you think Mikheyev is in play here, like Kuzmenko, or do you just think he's in a slump and he is part of the plans going forward?
I mean, first of all, yes, he's definitely in a slump. I think too, he's in the reality of ACL recovery. I mean, go back to Pavel Bure. Think about how long it took him to come back. It really hasn't changed. There's a lot of examples of substantial knee surgery and taking a while to come back. It's been a year since he had his surgery now. I have a hard time imagining, just with how he's played and the sort of perception of what he might be. He's not coming off a 39-goal season. To me, that was the Kuzmenko advantage, and that you could see he was at least trying stuff. The thing with Mikheyev, we just haven't seen anything. Like, that's been the hard thing to see. If they could flip him out for something else, I suppose. I don't have any insights on that particular question. Okay. I have been pondering what they might do in that spot. There's a reason why I mentioned the Recchi thing, but I think their preference certainly would be for him to get on track and start popping some goals and to work with that line as it's set up.
I ask in part because, the one thing the Lindholm trade didn't do was add quantity, because you shipped out one forward to bring another forward back. And I think at some point it's a quantity and depth matter as much as it is a quality matter, and getting rid of guys who aren't necessarily playing their best hockey right now.
Well, let's address, you playfully referenced the Phil Kessel thing. And Luke Fox asked Rick Tocchet about that during the All-Star break, and it was a pretty emphatic endorsement that he thought the Kessel had game left, which was a little bit odd, because if you hadn't been speaking with Phil Kessel, you'd probably be like, I don't know, I haven't seen him in months. You'd give sort of a middling answer. I think it was sort of emphatic, which leads you to believe he might know something.
Yeah, I saw the quote and I sort of went, okay. Listen, he was Rick's best forward basically consistently when he was coaching in Arizona, right? Like, that was sort of the most consistently best forward that he had. He was a really good player, really important player on the 2 Stanley Cup teams in Pittsburgh, which of course was 8 and 7 years ago. I do look at Kessel's season last year, where he played a lot for Vegas and then barely played in the playoffs and became a spare part. To me, Kessel, if I'm the Canucks, I think you're looking at Kessel as sort of the fail-safe option, that if there's nothing else that plays out, that's a guy that you can bring in. He hasn't played in 10 months. That's the thing. And no matter how hard he's been skating, no matter how hard he's been trying to keep himself in shape, it's going to take him a while. if there had been an opportunity to sign him, say in December, something like that, like then you have a little more window for him to get fit, get back in, ease him in. But we're getting close now. I mean, trade deadline's in a month, less than a month, or it's a month almost exactly, I think. And then the playoffs are in just over 2 months. Like that's not a lot of time to work with anymore with a player like him. So I don't think it's impossible. I just think I think it's well down the list of likely, and that there are other options. I think they're looking at ahead of that.
He'd be super cheap, and it means you don't spend a dime of asset to bring in. So that would be the other part of it, right? So
and maybe he ends up being an insurance option over and above something other move, depending on how that's structured. But I don't get the sense it's not impossible, but I also don't get the sense that it's high on the list right
now. Dreger says the Oilers are in on Tanev.
Sure. I mean, they should be.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Which, thus I'm asking the question. Are you at the point, do you think they're at the point where you may look at making a move, not just to improve your hockey club, but to keep a key piece away from a direct competitor? Because I think everybody recognizes Tanev would be exactly what Edmonton needs.
I wouldn't put it past this group. I mean, if you look deep inside some of the moves that Rutherford made, like the Mark Streit trade, who barely played in the playoffs, played 18 games down the stretch, and then played 3 games in the playoffs. Like that was a guy who could still play. And that I think in hindsight looked like a move of just trying to make sure that the depth guy doesn't land somewhere else, that you're keeping it away from a rival. I could absolutely see them trying to do that. The interest in Tanev was definitely there in the Lindholm talks. The price of everything and trying to make it work under the cap, I'm sure was what held that up.
Imagine the Flames playing these two teams off of each other.
Oh my God.
Delicious.
Yeah, it is delicious. It's sort of, you want to win, but if the second best thing is that you can drive Edmonton and Vancouver crazy, I think that's certainly something. That's a role you're going to try to play, right? Yeah, absolutely.
They're on a 120-point pace here.
Yes,
going into this would-be Stanley Cup preview against Boston. Now clearly the best team in the league by every metric.
Yeah.
You think they can keep a 9-game homestand in March? They go like a full month without even leaving the city of Vancouver.
Like regression talks out the window, but there is a world in which they have a 5-game losing streak and finish with 108 points, which would still be a great season and all that sort of thing. But do you see even that happening?
Or are they going to just keep it up?
I mean, they are the last team that has yet to lose, or they are the last team that has yet to lose 3 games in a row, right? Mm-hmm. Like they haven't done that. I'm not the first person to say this. I mean, many have said this before me. They have been much better since Christmas. That sort of mini training camp after Christmas that they were able to have, just working on a little more strategy stuff, system stuff, I think has made a difference. The goaltending remains fantastic. The foundation of this team is solid, right? That the defensive two-way game is solid. The fact that their shooting percentage at even strength is down to 11.7, guys.
They're barely scoring.
They're under 12, but they're still, 2 percentage points above kind of what I think most teams realistically can hope to shoot. So they may run a dry patch. I mean, I don't think it's going to be hard for them to run a dry patch given how they approach shooting the offensive zone now, that they actually hold the puck rather than shoot the puck. And there is, I think, maybe something to that, though. On the whole, you just know the numbers win out in the end. No matter what you are trying to do, the simple truth is that you're not going to keep scoring at the rate you're scoring. I could see them. You lose a few more games here. I could, the 100. I mean, I laugh when you say 120-point pace because it on its face sounds absurd. No matter who the team is, that was the Boston Bruins last year with the most. I mean, think how crazy the Bruins season was last year, and how everything went right for that team. And that team was like a deep, talented team. And the Canucks are deep and talented. I don't think they're the Boston Bruins of last year. I think there's going to be some bumps. This road trip they're on is a tricky one. There's another tricky one in a couple weeks. there's probably going to be that long homestand. Like, you could lull yourself a little bit into complacency. Like, I can just see it. It's inevitable. There's what
Yeah.
you know, you
9-game homestand is too long.
of going and coming.
No,
It's
absolutely.
too long.
At some point in the 9-game homestand, you're going to go off. You're going to have a night. You're going to do something out of routine, and you're going to like drop a Thursday game to the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah,
because you're not as ready to go.
Yeah, I still think things are set up that I think it is going to be a surprise if they do lose 3 games in a row, which sounds absurd to say it, just in terms of the way they've been playing, the way they've been sort of managing themselves emotionally. I think back to the story I put together before the All-Star game, which I put on the weekend, up on the weekend, about just the most fun thing. And Pedersen was just so emphatic on the notion of how they've been able to deliver on their own expectations. You know, they've set a standard for themselves and they're delivering, and they have that pattern of success. And you know that they're huge fans of the coach. They're huge fans of what the coach has them doing, because they're getting the results and they can see it, and they believe in him and they believe in each other. There's the confidence is quiet and very, very, very strong on this team.
Quinn Hughes saying that being shitty for that long has made them want to compete every night.
Yeah. And, you know, like, that's what Quinn said to me. He said, you know, I think I said this before, but, you know, that you know, 70% of their success is Rick Tocchet and his coaching staff, and Tyler Myers totally agreed. You know, you want one player who's improved his game and become one of the best players in the NHL, and another player who's improved his game to be, you know, a competent every night contributor in Tyler Myers. Like, both those guys have seen different versions of the same thing, which is that everything's working, and that they believe in each other and they're playing better. And they're just going to keep going. I mean, they haven't lost in how many games? Like, actually lost in regulation and
12,
11, 12. Yeah, right. Like, they're going to lose. It's not the end of the world, but they're playing. They are lots of things that are going for them. So I think they're just going to keep.
It feels like they're scoring less. And you mentioned the scoring, the shooting percentage going down. I just checked. You know how many times they've scored more than 4 goals in the calendar year of 2024? 6 times.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like they're scoring less, but they're really not much. Like, still scoring 5-6 goals.
And that's the one thing that if they're going to score less, they're going to have fewer of those games. They're just going to have to win. They're going to end up winning games more by 1 goal. Like,
yeah, I think that's right.
It's been the story this season, is they're winning by blowouts night after night after night.
I was going to wrap up this segment by saying we had a spicy, jocular, fun interview with Patrick. And for the listener or two who keeps at us on this, not a single curse word involved. And then this guy goes and drops a shitty. We were this close to doing something great, Patrick.
Oh, well.
And he blew it for us.
I mean, you know, I don't know, Matt. We started talking about Stratas for 4 minutes.
Yeah, that was a little much. It was a little much. We're going to end this with talk of Six Nations rugby. There's a new Netflix reality series. Have you seen the Netflix reality series on Six Nations
I'm aware
rugby?
of it, but I am.
Yeah, I started it. It didn't hold my attention. Even the great Scottish accents didn't hold my attention. No.
Matthew, there's a referee documentary on the available.
Oh, wow. That sounds scintillating.
A referee documentary.
Rugby referee. Yeah, it's on Rugby Pass.
Oh, rugby referees.
Yeah.
Oh,
still.
I know you're a big fan of them. You know, you might appreciate that.
Oh, I'm a fan of the rugby play-by-play guys, particularly the Scottish ones who referred to the
Jamie Lyle. If you want, I can get him. We're social media.
Really?
Buddies.
Oh, okay.
You don't like the Canadian rugby play-by-play guys?
No, yeah, what about this guy? Rugby play-by-play guy. I just don't believe him.
This guy, my protege.
Exactly.
Until next week.
Take care, guys.
Mm-hmm.